Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We are delighted to have you. And today we're going to be talking about strengths. And Jeanne Craft is here. She is our CITRS CIO, which is Chief Innovative Officer, and she is the managing partner for Character Deli, which is our app. She started with CITRS back in 2010 when it was first established. And as a strength performer and sports psychologist, Jeanne has worked with schools, youth organizations, administrations, faculty and staff, corporate managements, teams, and governance boards, and of course, athletic teams. Jeanne was one of the first strength consultants to be certified by the Gallup organization in 2006. She has led over 100 workshop programs and facilitated over 1,300 individual strengths assessments. Jeanne has been the strengths performance coach for Princeton University women's squash team for 10 years. To speak our strengths language, Jeanne's strengths are individualizer, maximizer, achiever, empathy, relator. Jeanne, I'm going to leave it up to you to explain that to everybody, and thank you for being with us today and teaching us to play to our strengths for positive change.
Thanks, Michelle. That's awesome. I am very excited to be here talking about strengths. This is my favorite subject, strengths and you. I hope to bring some value to everyone so you can double down on your talents to be the best version of yourself. And before we get started, could you just enter into the chat box where you're from, your role, and really anything that's relevant to you. So today, we're going to talk in three main areas. What is the strengths movement? How did it begin? And what is the strengths program all about? And we're going to reflect on what it means to play to your strengths. And we're going to ask for your input as well. And we're going to share 5 benefits for playing to your strengths. So I'd like to hear from you all. So in a couple of words, how would you describe playing to your strengths? So what do you naturally do so well and excel at? And just in a couple words or a sentence, if you could just share that in the chat, that would be great. So while you're doing that, I would just continue to talk about our first main area, which is the strengths movement. And, how did this begin? It's a social movement that really influences how we view ourselves, how we view others, and the world. Back in the 1970s, a man by the name of Clifton actually asked the question, what would happen if we focused on what was right with people? It sounds so simple, right? Why wasn't everyone doing it? But they weren't. And he was doing it and having great success. So fast forward, he purchased the Gallup organization, which you may know, it's a Gallup polling organization that was established in the 1930s. And he purchased it. And over the last 50, 60 years, it's become just a global American-based performance management consulting company focusing on human development, talent management, well-being, engagement, and strengths. And he really revolutionized how we study people. And he became known as the father of strength psychology. Now, as you can see in the second bullet, the strengths program is rooted in the science of positive psychology. Now, as opposed to traditional psychology. So traditional psychology is really half-baked, right? We bake the part about illness and repair and damage and deficit remediation and the illnesses and diseases in the world, which are much needed. However, up to this point, they really weren't focused on what made us thrive, what made life worth living, and looking at happiness and optimism and strengths and well-being and engagement. And a man by the name of Martin Seligman, back in 1999, when he was the president of the American Psychological Association, he actually formally established positive psychology as a discipline. And back there were just, a handful of books that were written on this topic. And now there are just thousands of them. So with the convergence of Don Clifton and the father of strength psychology, and Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, we have what is known as the strengths movement. So to give you a little bit of information about what we use the Gallup organization's, the Clifton Strengths platform. And you can see here, they've got great creds, right? They've got 50 years of research. It's in 26 languages, 247 countries, and it's an online assessment where over 27 million people have taken this assessment. And it identifies your 34 themes. And these are really areas where you have the greatest potential for strengths development. And it started out in business with Fortune 500 companies. There's over 90% of them are strengths-based organizations. And this is one of the leading platforms for talent and strengths development for corporations. And I tell you, it is really expanded in education. There are thousands of universities and colleges around the country who are strengths-based campuses. And we've expanded into high schools as well as middle schools. It's in sports and communities and families. They've just grown significantly in the past 15 years. And I'm really excited and looking forward to seeing it flourish even more in other areas. So people were asked, what was it like to play to your strengths? And this is just a sampling of responses. And hopefully you have responses like this in the chat as well.
Yes.
You see, that's great. Awesome. So the strengths discovery is really about your self-discovery and self-awareness and discovering why you do what you do, think what you think, feel what you feel, need what you need, and really turning that into a strength. And it's really all about improving that emotional intelligence. So, as you look at these things, it's like, why wouldn't you want to do this, right? There's contentment and joy. You feel like you're focused and engaged, and you're really developing meaning and purpose. There's this sense of timelessness as you go through your day. It's positive energy. So as I talk about playing to your strengths, these are the kind of outcomes that we're looking for. So here are the 5 areas of benefits. Now, there are more. We only have so much time, and Michelle will kill me if I go on. So there are, I'd say some of these are more like categories of benefits. So you'll see, we'll give you some additional ones in between. So let's start off with our first one. So if you're focusing on what's right about you, what you do well, your strengths, that's where you have the greatest opportunity for growth and success versus focusing on your weaknesses. For example, managers who focus on their employees' weaknesses, they're 22% actively disengaged. And if they're focusing on individual strengths, they're 1% actively disengaged. So, it's when you're focusing all on weaknesses, you can really miss out on all the good stuff, right? You could be blinded to the potential out there, and maybe working with kids that diamond in the rough. So the thing is to use your strengths, use what's right about you, to leverage them to really work on your weaknesses. We're not going to ignore them, but let's manage them with what you do well. So they did a study, and they asked thousands of parents the question: if your child came home with a report card with 2 A's, 2 B's, and an F. Michelle, let me ask you, what percentage of parents do you think looked at the good grade?
I immediately said, why a F? So percentage of parents that looked at the good grade?
Whatever.
10%. 10%.
10%?
Yeah.
Well, you're about 23%. Almost 80% look at the F. And how demotivating, right? Just focusing on the negative. It's that fixing mindset, right? Whereas if you're focusing on, there's 4 great grades there, right? So if you focus on these, they can really help, really more than even a child, right? An adult, empower them, give them the confidence to deal with, what they're not doing well. So let's do an exercise. Are you up for an exercise?
Sure.
Everyone out there can do it as well. You get a piece of paper and something to write with.
Okay.
And let's see how it feels to do something that's strong in you and something that's not so strong in you. So I'd like you to write your name 5 times.
Okay.
So as you're writing your name, what does it feel like?
I'm listening to you. I'm wondering what's going on next.
It's easy, right? It's smooth, fluid. You're successful, right? You're pretty confident. You can do that very simply. You don't even have to look at it, right?
Done. Yep.
Okay, so let's take your pen or your pencil and put it in your non-dominant hand and write your name 5 times.
I don't even like moving the pen from one hand to the other.
Feels pretty uncomfortable, right? And you're kind of awkward, clumsy, not very neat, probably, right? So what if you took the time to practice that? Sure, you could get better, right? But maybe not as good as if you put that same time into developing something that's already good, right? So this is kind of a metaphor for a bigger picture, right? To focus on what's already in your wheelhouse to help you focus on, getting better, developing excellence in something.
It's funny because I didn't even finish writing all of my name. I gave up already. I was like,
You stopped.
Yeah, and I can think about kids doing it.
Right. Absolutely. Get frustrated. I'm not doing this anymore. Mm-hmm. So that just gives you kind of an idea what it feels like to, when you're asked to do something that's not in your wheelhouse. Okay. So let's get to our second benefit. This is all about engagement, right? A higher level of engagement when you play to your strengths. So let me ask you, Nichelle, and everyone out there, when was the last time that you jumped out of bed in the morning? You're so excited. You're anticipating the day ahead of you. You can't wait to get to your work or if you're volunteering or wherever you're going to spend your day, and you have great enthusiasm, and your day just flies by. And at the end of the day, you're just totally worn out and you can't wait to, get to bed and get up and do it the next day.
Very recently, I'm new to CITRS, relatively new compared to especially you, and I've been enjoying the work here. So I could say that, yeah, I had that feeling, get up and say, what can we do, team, today to improve character in the world? So
yeah, as I see, just to speak the strengths language, Nichelle's top theme is a ranger. And, these people, and I know you are, you're comfortable with a lot of moving parts. You're juggling a lot. You can love the chaos. I've seen you. I know you can. You do. You don't cause it, but you can deal with it. And you're flexible, and you like the interactivity, and you can initiate and orchestrate change and facilitate it well. So, I'd say you're playing to your strengths.
Yes.
And you're engaged.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So employee engagement, it is a foundational component in workplace outcomes and employee retention, and it's essential for a thriving and engaging, resilient culture. For people who play to their strengths, they're 6 times more engaged. And on the screen here, you can see fewer than 3 days, sick days a year versus 7. There are less mental health days. With employees, and that really saves on the bottom line. People love to come to work. Mm-hmm. They're in an upbeat culture. So there's less days that employees aren't there. Also, more productivity. Employees who do not work in the strengths areas, there's just 9% productivity, and those that do, there's 74% engagement levels.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I like a good visual. So when I think of like serious engagement, I really picture those who are watching one of those Netflix series, and they're, they spend, they work their schedules around it, and they're binging it, and they're like totally glued to the TV, right? So, if all companies could and schools could actually have this kind of engagement, wow, it'd be pretty powerful, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to show you a video here, but before you do, I'll just tell you about this man, Marcus Buckingham. He actually worked with the Gallup organization for over 2 decades. He was a research scientist, and he has written just a string of bestsellers, best-selling books for all strengths related. And one thing that we do include in here is a handout, which is a list of all strengths related books for you. So about 15 years ago, he developed a video series called The Trombone Player. And he did it, back then it was very popular with businesses, and that's where that strengths program really started. And it's gotten so popular. So he developed this series for managers to show to their employees and to speak and to talk about strengths. So can we get that on?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
We are different kinds, but we just like this. We are different kinds, but keep
Wouldn't it be great if you got to play to your strengths most of the time? If you could find a role where you play to your strengths for most of your working day. I mean, how cool would that be? Well, it'd be cool that the research shows that actually very few of us manage to get to that place. Or less than 2 out of 10 people say that they get to play to their strengths for most of the time. Well, for me anyway, that begs a question. And that question is, are you one of the 2 out of 10? And if you aren't, how do you get to be? Now, it wasn't always this way, was it? I mean, it wasn't always this way. When you were a kid, I mean, if you think back to when you were a kid, didn't you on some level kind of know instinctively what got you out of bed every day? You knew what classes you wanted to go to, or what teachers you wanted to hang out with, or what kids you wanted to go play with. You just knew instinctively what your strengths were, what strengthened you, and you kind of felt, maybe you couldn't articulate it, but you kind of felt that the world was going to wait for you, and one day you were going to pop out and your unique mark was going to be made on the world. But I think if you look carefully, you might find that what's really trapping you, what's really holding you back from playing to your strengths most of the day, isn't this other stuff, this external stuff. All of those external things, your boss, your company, your job description, it's what you believe.
Yeah, I love that video. It's just so subtle, right? There's a drummer in all of us. Some that strength spotting is a little more difficult than others. So when you think of the last couple of days or so, think about when you were energized and you had a lot of positive energy around something and you're excited about what you were doing. What strengths were you using at that time? What talents were you using then? So I'm just planting seeds. We all work in our lives, right? In our daily life. And we never get that chance to kind of take that 30-foot view of working on our lives. So I will be asking some questions as we go on, just to think about our lives. Okay, so this is the third one is all about, stability in the workplace. What a great benefit, the strengths program offers in the workplace. There's a dynamic application of the strengths program that really helps us understand leadership and team dynamics. There's a book It isn't on your list. It's called Strengths-Based Leadership. And really, in summary, this book is just really all about, says that the path to great leadership starts with strengths. And, there's two key findings: that effective leaders, they know their own strengths and they know the strengths of those around them, and they help to develop them. They deeply know them, and they maximize their teams. And they do this because they know the strengths of those people that they work with, right? They bring in the best people and they put them in the right roles so those people can contribute the best they can contribute in those roles. Jim Collins has a book called Good to Great, and there's a concept in there called, fill the bus. And I love this because it's not just bringing people into a team, but it's putting them in the right roles and putting them in the right seat on the bus, right? And a good way to think about this concept that demonstrates it and really enables it it's something called the 4 domains of strengths-based leadership. And if you recall, there are 34 themes that comes out of your assessment. And each of these 34 themes are categorized, put in groups of these 4 areas right here that you see at the bottom of the screen. So one is executing. Like, we all do things, we all get things done and accomplished differently, right? And it's kind of like the bottom line. It's like a get her done mentality. Mm-hmm. And strategic thinking is another one there. And this is all about, like, how do I solve? How do I think about these problems? And we all do it differently. Relationship building. There are many ways to personally build relationships, and the relationship themes, it's all about the glue that keeps everyone together, right? We get things done through people. And influencing, the 4th one is, how do I influence others so that I can get things done? How do I sell or convince and bring things forward to a group to get collective consensus on it? And the important thing is people don't need to be well-rounded. Like, people can be all in one category. Like, I know we have on our team, Michelle, we've got someone all in the relationship themes, right? And she's like, I don't have themes anywhere else. But, that's not the point. The point is, we need teams to be well-rounded, right? So we know where to select people and put them in. And we have people there where it's complementary. We can help fill each other's gaps.
Absolutely.
I know I worked with a colleague, and he in an organization where there was a person in HR who had the task of firing someone, and was really uncomfortable doing it. She had a lot of relationship themes. She had harmony and empathy, but she had a colleague who had some influencing themes, and this person had command. And he's like, I'll help you do it. So with insights, with the empathy and the harmony and this person's command, he was able to get the task done and actually make that person feel good about it. So that's what it's all about, filling the gaps. If you don't have something, know your colleague and how you can help someone, and lean into the strengths that you need.
I love that. I love that example. And I also like that they had that quote that you just passed through. It was really nice.
Which one? Here, let me go back. Oh, yeah.
The best leaders have business in their minds and people's growth in their hearts. I like that.
I love that. And that's what's going to last, right?
Yes.
I mean, and we'll talk about people stay in organizations because they know someone there cares about them. Right?
Yes.
They're in someone's heart, and that makes a big difference. It helps people stay. And we're going to talk about that right now. Good segue, Michelle. So this is all about, like, the state of the nation of what's going on in the workplace today, right? And there's another book. I'm on the book train now. I love books. Learner is one of my themes. And I think Amazon comes to my house every couple of weeks with a book. Now the challenge is just reading them. So this book is called It's the Manager. And it talks about how to improve the culture of an organization. And what's great about this is not just the culture. Culture is just so critical these days. But this was just written. It's a current book, very relevant in 2021. And we've got this era of the Great Resignation, right? it's a global issue, and we've got employees evaluating and reevaluating not just their jobs but their careers, right? And everyone seems to be looking for something. Is it that flexible time, that work-life balance? Is it development and career advancement? They're not developing. But the research says that employees that have a high utilization of strengths, they have higher engagement, there's better well-being, and therefore these people there's a 50% less likely chance that they're going to be looking for a new job in the next 12 months or so. There's an expression called cash is king, right? I mean, you've heard that expression. Mission, values, and culture, that's king. Mission, values, and culture may trump a salary when you're considering moving or taking on a job, which is so important to work on our cultures these days. And this chart on the second part of the screen here, Gallup studied thousands of work teams and millions of leaders, and we're looking at some changing demands in the workplace. And anymore, it used to be future, but this is really moving into now. This is kind of what the workplace is really starting to look like. In the past, family was central, right? People work 9 to 5. They came home and then were with their family. Now it's more like everything's integrated, like that work-life balance. And now they want a job that's really their life. They don't want a paycheck. Of course they want a paycheck, but that's not the They want a purpose, right? They want meaning. They want joy in life. We talk about being developed. That's the next one. They just don't want to be satisfied. They want to be developed. And actually, the research says that people aren't being developed, and that's one of the top reasons why they leave. They want to be fixed, right? They don't want their weaknesses to be focused on. They want their strengths to be developed. And they don't, the annual review is like that dreaded annual review. I mean, how do you really get to know someone in 1, 2, 3 hours just once a year? That ongoing conversation is just so important. And having there's no excuse, right? Hashtag no excuses. We've got text, email, Twitter. There's every possible way to communicate. And, I worked with one organization, and they call it the 10-minute a week. And literally everyone, it's not just going to your boss or having your direct reports come to you. It's managing up, managing down, managing across, sideways, every which direction. Just go into your boss or go into a colleague and just for 5-10 minutes a week, how can I help you? Or what are you working on? Or this is an idea. And this really helps develop our strengths language of, the 4 needs of a follower, which is all about trust, compassion, hope, and stability.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I'll tell you, if you just develop those informal conversations, just 10 minutes a week, just one idea that an organization had, it tended to really build a lot of trust and compassion and hope and stability within the culture of that organization. So the quote at the bottom, I love. It's kind of the new will of the world. That one of the most significant characteristics of today's workplace is individuals want a purpose. They want meaning in their lives. They want that right job, right? Where they're engaged. The goal is to make work a purpose, not just a place. So remember all those characteristics we talked about that you actually provided your input on. They're the kind of things that they're looking for. So it's good to know that, this isn't the panacea, the cure-all, but, the strengths really does help. The research Gallup does, and I'll tell you, they're incredible with a lot of the research they do. They find indexes for, the best life imaginable, and, your growth index and your engagement index and all kinds of things.
Yeah. I know as a leader, I have a real focus on developing people, looking at their strengths, and then just looking at, you look like you enjoy that activity that you're doing. How can we use that and expand it for the next step? Unfortunately, fortunately, I have the opportunity to mentor quite a few young people. And so I watch them grow their strengths and then leave and I was excited for them, but still, it's a talent and a curse.
Oh, no, I only see it as a strength. And it's interesting because since you started, just to give everyone here an example, when Nichelle came on, she saw that, we talked about that one person that has all those relationship themes, and you brought her out into a new role. And now we have her being involved with clients, which makes so much sense, right? With someone with all those relationship themes. So that's great insight that you have.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next benefit, we are enhanced well-being. Well-being, wow, it's a big word, right? And it's become more significant these past few years. It's a very common topic in the workplace and in schools. Here's another book, shock and horror. Here's another book, Well-Being at Work. Excellent book on talking about, there are 5 areas of well-being. You have career, social, financial, physical, community. And Gallup really focuses on career and how all of these areas you can actually really do something about. You have control over more things than you think. So it's a good book to really dig in, because well-being influences everything from our decisions, our habits, our relationships, and all the successes that we experience. We talked about the EQ, right, and the emotional intelligence. It's this whole unprecedented level of self-awareness leads to knowing what you need, right? And it can really help with your well-being as well. It reduces stress and burnout. I love the quote at the bottom. Can I ask you to read the quote, Nichelle?
Sure. The more hours a day adults use their strengths, the more likely to have ample energy, feeling well rested, being happy, smiling or laughing a lot, learning something interesting, and being treated with respect. Harvard Business Review and Gallup, Inc.
That's great.
Yes.
So people are 3 times as likely to say that they have a higher quality of life. If you're focused on what you're doing well with positive energy and enthusiasm. Relationships. Okay, so Jimmy Buffett, he wrote a song. He has a song called Fruitcakes. And he's like, well, this is a big one. Relationships. Everyone has them. Everyone wants them. But what do you do when you get them, right? So relationships are the foundation for success in everything we do. If you recall, we talked about the emotional intelligence, right? Those 2 components, self-awareness, self-management. Now it's about self-awareness and building relationships. So there's an interactive part of this program where you learn about other strengths, what they think, what they feel, what they do, why they do what they do, and why they need what they need. And it really helps with our acceptance, our patience, right? Our tolerance of other people. Everyone's different. And sometimes, people in your work group, they may be doing something that could be a little bit annoying. Like, for example, someone may be very slow to make decisions, right? And it can be a little annoying. But I tell you, when you put on the strengths lens and you realize that, there's a theme called deliberative, and this is the type of person that will vet out every single decision process and do due diligence. But the bottom line is you can be really, really confident that this person is going to come to a great decision. Yeah. So you see them you see it as a strength, and it's not as annoying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
I do want to point out that we did do 2 previous webinars. One was on wellness, and the other one was building connectedness and relationships. So you can go to our YouTube channel and watch those. They were amazing. The wellness one was by our Chief Program Director, Suzanne Bracci, and the relationship one was by Melissa Farley. So go out and check it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so let's do this exercise, this little activity. So I love optical illusions. They're a great metaphor for perceptions. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. Our perceptions are our reality, but is our reality the truth? Like, do we see ourselves the way other people see us, or do we see things happening the way other people see it? Mm-hmm. And it's when there's that conflict that you can't develop the authentic relationship, right? When you have a conflict in how you're seeing things, right? So let's just do this exercise.
Okay,
you ready?
Yep.
And everyone out there, if you want to put in the chat room, tell us what you see.
Please. Let's see.
What do you see?
Two faces. Two faces. Seems a lot of people see the faces. Two faces.
Do you see the vase?
Anybody see a vase?
Here, and there's the base here.
Up now they see two faces and the vase. So they are on two perspectives.
Great.
Two faces and a vase.
Okay. How about this?
Or a candlestick. Someone sees a candlestick.
Oh, that's good. I like a candlestick.
And someone else said, I didn't see the face at first, but now when you said it, I can see it.
The two faces.
They saw the two faces, but then then the vase was apparent after you said there's the vase and showed it where it was. So
just look at the white here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what do we see here?
I always see the young lady first, but I also know the old lady is there.
Okay, so
some people are saying I see a woman turning away, a young lady.
Right, that's here with her ear, and there's her eyelash, right? And her chin going there, right?
Uh-huh.
So how about
also sees a young woman first and then an old lady like myself.
Okay, you see the old lady, with the chin down here and the nose.
Right.
And the scarf. So everyone kind of sees both. Okay, so let's look at this one. What do y'all see? This has gotten some very interesting comments. What color do you see? What color dress?
Madison sees a black and blue dress. Caitlin sees a black and blue dress. Paige sees gold and white dress. Black and blue. I see another gold dress, a gold and white. Fran says gold and white. So there's black and blue and gold and white.
Okay, I love this because everyone sees something different, right? I see black and blue.
Yes, I see black and blue.
Right. The amazing thing is, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to see that other color, right? You're totally blind, right? You're totally blind to what others are seeing.
Yes.
Right. So unlike the two other images, an explanation isn't going to help. Like we can explain those other two so that you see both images in each one, right? But that's really what our perceptions and our images do to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter how hard you explain that, everyone has a different perception on something, right? And that's our reality, right? Our different realities can create conflicts. However, if I understand your perception and I understand how people see tan and gold, and I see the filters that are going through.
Right.
Okay, that can reduce conflict.
Yes.
So it's being conscious, right? It's being aware of it.
Yes.
Plus, a strengths mindset can also lead to a positive impact on social change, right? So strengths-based approaches, they focus on the assets and the opportunities, right? So it means that we also think very carefully about how we view, about how we talk to, about how we interact with those who disagree with us. So collectively using our strengths, it really helps us to create positive social change and tackle those major social issues that we face. So the whole language of strengths really provides an objective explanation of our behaviors.
Yes. So I am loving all this. What can we do if we want to get our strengths profile?
To do the assessment itself?
Yes.
Well, just connect with us. Just connect,
Okay.
and we'll lead you to it.
Okay. So put something in the chat that if you're interested in getting a strengths profile, you can get a strengths profile either for yourself individually or as a team. Jeannie comes out and everybody does their individual profile, but again, it's about relationships. So bringing the team together and looking at your profile will really be helpful. So I would love to hear if anybody has any questions or comments or feedbacks before we end. Not bad, Jeannie, not bad. 4:40.
Yay, I still have 5 minutes.
Any questions? Let's see. Nothing so far. I just want to thank everybody for showing up. We have one more webinar for this year. It is next month. We will have Beth Bradley speaking to us. I am allowing the opportunity for you to sign up right now. You'll see at the bottom of the screen, you can click and sign up for our webinar called Communication and Trust in the Educational Setting. Please join us then. How can I use this framework with respect to addiction? Oh yeah, that's a good idea, addiction. I like that. Madison asked that question. How can I use this framework with respect to addiction? Sorry.
Yeah,
Too much math stuff in my head.
I tell you, it's a great question. Thanks, Madison. In the addiction and recovery field, this population, they come in, generally speaking, pretty much hit rock bottom. Probably have fractured most of the relationships in their lives, probably don't feel like they have a whole lot of worth, feeling pretty low, right? So to do the strengths with them is such a gift because they're worth a whole lot more than they think. And if we can really build their confidence and their self-image, and show them that they have talents, right? Show them that they have great strengths out there that they can help others with. And it really helps develop a hope plan for this group, right. And it's not just about like our passions and our interest and our strengths, but it's how it intersects with the world, right? And that's when the magic happens. So there's an expression that, you can't keep what you have until you give it away. Yeah. And, I just love that. It's such a win-win. It helps yourself and, it helps others get better as well.
I love that. Someone said, very thought-provoking, so applicable for all lives. Your examples with the photos and address picture, et cetera, were so thought out and made your point hit home big time.
Oh, thank you.
That's from Paige.
Awesome. Thank you, Paige.
So I don't see any more questions. Again, join us for our next webinar. This will be available to you to share out starting tomorrow, and reach out to us if you're interested in getting your Strengths Finders assessment done. So thank you, Jeannie. Thank you very much for doing this. And we really always, as you appreciate all your strengths here at CITRS.
Thank you, Nichelle. Same to you as well.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for joining.